other thing I've done is on all the blocks I've determined where there's going to be about 1 inch and 3/4 inch screw that will go through the inside rail, the spacer block plywood, and then somewhat into the outside. Okay, the thing I did was I took my dividers here and then just figured, okay, is that the center? That's the center, and then I put a pencil mark down and then I transfer it over to the edge. And I have another one that's been set since day one to the thickness of the rail, so I know I'm centered. That's critical, that when you're drilling these, that you take the time to look to where the point is, and I may even go through with a center punch just to make, you know what I'm going to say, make certain that the point of the drill can't drift off one way or the other, because you won't notice it after you've done it, but while you're drilling it, and maybe after you've got it all done, you look along the side there, you'll see maybe one screw's higher or lower or whatever, or maybe they all kind of oscillate back and forth. It's a boat, you know, we're not sending, you know, men to the moon. I'm going to go ahead and get the drill out and we'll start drilling some holes. To get a nice straight cut on the sides for putting in my block, I haven't decided whether I'm going to use a piece of walnut or rip out a piece of oak to match up with the rest of it. I'll probably rip out some oak, but I wanted to get a baseline for something. So I took the width of this piece of black walnut I've got and I measured it out to where it would fit in between a couple lines, and then I used my bandsaw with the rip fence, or the fence on it, to set up to put a couple grooves, which gives me a guide for pulling the Japanese draw saw. So now I can pull this off because I've already got deep enough guides in there that I can see what I'm going to do. And there we go. Getting off a little bit here on the end, but I can clean it out. It was to the inside, so, and I'm almost to the end that I need. So let me go ahead and do this off camera and come back. I have it fitted, gel magicked in place, and I got a clamp on it to keep it from slip sliding around, because it tends, gel magic is a lubricating force like any epoxy or any glue. If you look away, it'll slag on you. So that part's done. I'll come back tomorrow and trim it down and then rasp it into place. I'm going to go back and work on the stern corners. Okay, I've taken a piece of 2x6 and put a bevel in it, so from the angle that on the flat of the rail to the vertical I want to have for the piece I want to set into this gap we're going to make. So I've got it in, I've got it clamped down, and that was another one of those things. You want to be sure that you have wide enough stock though that the other side of the clamp is out of the way of the path of the saw. So I'm going to draw this in here now, hold it up next to the block. And now I've got a nice straight edge along here that I'll be able to use this thick oak block to let in, and I've got it. I could probably clamp it up out here and then use this side, this piece down. I was holding it against the part I'm going to have in here. There may be a little bit of a gap, but I don't care because I'll be using epoxy gel magic, which is a gap filling, epoxy. There, okay. Got that in. Pretty quick, pretty good fit. Start finishing off the corners, I took some oak and some black walnut and laminated some thin strips together to fit inside the gap that we opened up and trued up with our saws and our blocks. I've got another little piece of oak in the bottom to go fill this in because I didn't have these pieces thick enough, but I'm going to fill in any gaps. I'm going to mix up some easy filling to fill in the stuff on the bottom. But before I could do that, I like to tie my corners together. Even if I put in a corner block, sometimes I'll put depending on the angle of the transom pieces, I'll put in some 1/4-inch plywood underneath and glue it in. But I've tried, but even putting some sight marks in it, but it just it cracked every time I tried to get it to bend so severely. But I had some 2 mil, I guess 1/8 inch marine grade. I can't remember if this is it's marine grade, but I can't remember if it's an Akumi or not. So I cut out a cardboard piece template to fit in. Let's see, it's the other way around. To fit in underneath, and then I transferred that over to where I make 2 pieces. This is the one off the starboard side, and I had to soak it. Just take out a mister bottle, or you could just dunk it in water, and I put it in place, and then had a couple channel locks, vice grips, I mean, to hold it in place till it takes on a bend. So now it's all bent, so I'm going to gel magic up the faces and then the top, and then stick it in place, which I've already done on this one. Okay, I seem to start every segment out with okay, don't I? Make sure that I say okay. Okay, I've got it. I did some preliminary planing, my low angle plane, and some rough rasping. Put my rasp fine and smooth. Start getting it down, get some of the epoxy up, because you want to make certain that all the epoxy up, so when you stain, it gets down below any epoxy that may have spilled onto the surface when you are applying these corners. So I still have to cut this out and then do some shaping, and then I have the other corner block to do, and then to bring in the these panels in to match them so that it's symmetrical and it looks even from side to side. And I'll come back after I get these done and shaped and show you what it looks like underneath, and that'll be it for rails until I come around to finishing later, which will be after I start working on some of the interior projects. The shaping and the staining of the rails can wait until you have some slow spots while you've got all these other parts inside that are getting coated with epoxy, and then they need to cure overnight, and that's a good time to fill in working on the rails and staining them and that sort of thing. The one thing you want to make certain is that you get them shaped before you start doing a lot of epoxy work, or if you do a lot of epoxy work, cover them up with some plastic so you don't get any epoxy on them that you have to take down again, so you can stain it. Okay, I've got it shaped, and I've got a preliminary sand on it. It came out pretty good. I got some oak, and then 2 bits of black walnut on either side, and then the Meranti, so it's going to color up nice. And I was able to shape the inside well too, and then have it come out. I still have to get my Dremel out to clean up on the underside of here where I put in the those little wings, remember we put in, and then I use some easy fillet to put around the perimeter, so I need to dress that up and clean it up, because that'll get stained, probably get painted. Usually on those corners underneath, I'll stain them. I may paint that part. I'll see what happens when I get there. But I'm going to go ahead and do the other one right now, but I just want to let you know what this looked like. And this will finish out, hopefully it'll finish out this thing on the rails until we come back into the finish. I want to start the next episode on the daggerboard trunk, which I've already got underway. So, out.